Chapter 1, From Human Prehistory to the Early Civilizations. Human life in the era of hunters and gatherers, Homo sapiens or Homo sapiens sapiens, by 10,000 BCE had larger brains, intelligence over other species, they had the opposable thumb, right? They had the understanding of death, they could make tools and weaponry, right? Which was very important. One thing to note with this, no matter what your belief system is, whether it's creation or whether it's evolution, it's important to always know the other side so that way you're able to defend yourself and you can have an intelligent conversation and you don't sound ignorant. So learning this is important no matter what your viewpoint is. Continuing on, developments by 10,000 BCE, all right, you have your hunter and your gatherer. These are your nomads. They're wandering around following the herds and following the seasons of when things are growing, such as berries. All right, they were somewhat sophisticated. They did have an understanding of where the animals were going and why they were going there. They also had art, right? That art helped them with their cave paintings that they would draw of these herds that they were chasing after. Also with fertility, Venus figurines as well. So they could track their fertility and help them out. Your early hominids, East Africa region, all right, those are your earliest remains. Cave paintings, Australia, India, the lower half of Africa, one spot in North Africa, and then in Europe. Some of your cave paintings in France, close-up of a horse in France, your outline of your cattle, your antelope in Spain, your figure in Australia, and of course you have the turtle in Australia as well. All right, migration spread to Europe, then to Asia, then to Australia, then the Americas. All right. As you notice on the image, or when you're looking at this on your PowerPoint, you'll notice the outline, all right, of today's continents, and then the landmass continuing on. This is believed where you had your landmass, your land bridges, connecting some of these areas, especially in Southeast Asia, and over into the Americas. Another view of this as well. And of course a view that helps put things in perspective. It's always good to look at the Earth. Remember, it's a globe, all right, and then we're looking at a flat map. So you can see how close Alaska and Russia are to each other. Paleolithic culture, Old Stone Age, 14,000 up to 14,000 years ago. This will be the end of the Ice Age that we have it. Then you have the Mesolithic, which is your Middle Stone Age, 12,000 to 8,000 BCE. The late Paleolithic developments, you have a variety here. You have bands of hunters and gatherers. These are your nomads. This is pretty much the base of it. It will slowly start to fade out when you have the Neolithic Revolution, but it's going to take some time here. Agricultural settlements, domestication of your animals is going to come into play. This is still on the very smallest scale as far as moving into agriculture occurs. Your main social organization, you have small family units, 40 to 60 people. It's extremely difficult when you're dealing with large numbers in the hundreds or even thousands to actually get up and move those people, to actually follow the herds. Also, more people, more mouths to feed means you need more food. It becomes extremely difficult upon your hunters and your gatherers. Led by elders, women had leadership roles. Women at this time had respect, right? Not that everything was equal in what you did, because that would be difficult. Somebody's got to do one chore while somebody does another. But yet there was a mutual respect between women and between the men. Gender divisions though, men were your hunters, your fishers, your men of defense. Women, gatherers, getting the berries, the nuts, roots, making medicine as well. And again, women had more rights up until the New Stone Age. The New Stone Age, refined tools in agriculture. Eventually you're going to get the development of copper, lead to bronze. The Chinese will develop iron. Your sedentary agriculture, systematic cultivation. All right, this was found by women. Either by accident or observation, somehow women figured out that these seeds are going to have plants come from them. Whether it's through observation of every year they keep going back to these same areas and things are growing up, or whether just by accident they realized through the things that they were eating and leaving the seeds, and then after years they realized they grew up. So either by observation or accident, it was realized. Whatever it is, it wasn't something that occurred overnight, it was a small process that occurs. Domesticated, animals were domesticated by the men. This is why men are going to start to become more dominant. They feel like they've lost their role as the hunter and the gatherer, or as the hunter in the hunting and gathering situation. And when they would go out, right, they would come back, they would feel all prideful, they would get all the glory from all the hunt. Also, they're going away from a time period. Now they're all of a sudden at home all the time, and they're not feeling all the glory that they used to, having self-esteem issues, and so therefore men decide we're stronger, we're tougher, and therefore we will take the women who are weaker than us and become more dominant over them. And so there, from that point on, you're having the decline in women's roles and their status and the respect that they receive. Development of towns. This has one of the causes is climate shifts. It was the end of the Ice Age, so therefore things are starting to slowly change, and people are able to live in one place longer, and the climate isn't as harsh on them. Effects: food surplus, population growth equals towns. All right. The more food you have, the more mouths that can be fed. Therefore, the population goes up. Population goes up. Towns are going to need to be built. Mud houses, probably the quarter to a half the size of this room. Again, you're only dealing with a door frame. Most of the time, people spent their socialization on the roofs. And one of the things that they would eventually have to build would be called a parapet. It's found in Deuteronomy in the Old Testament. And one of the reasons a parapet was needed is that was kind of a wall shape on your roof that would protect people from falling off. So you're guarding yourself and you're guarding others as well. The domestication of plants and animals. You have plants, slow development, barley and wheat. This is going to take time in order to come about. Agriculture just did not occur overnight. And so this takes time for nomads to buy into this system. Animals from 12,000 BCE, you're going to have dogs, sheep, goats, and pigs as well. The spread of agriculture, the key here, water. All right, you have the ocean, you have the Hoanghi, the Yangtze, the Indus, Tigris, Euphrates, Nile River, and of course you have the Amazon over there as well. Spread of agriculture starts in the Middle East and outward. And again, these are your high centers of vegetation where agriculture begins. Population increasing, 3,000, 2,000, 1,500 BCE, goes up in millions. Okay, again, as metal improves, going from copper to bronze to iron, tools improve, cultivation becomes easier of the ground, and so therefore your food surplus increases, you can have more people. The spread of Neolithic revolution, hunting and gathering persists. Once again, this is a slow process for people to adapt and move into. Sub-Saharan Africa, you have your root and tree crops. Northern China, you have your wheat. Southeast Asia, China, India, Malaysia, Indonesia. You have rice. Mesoamerica and Peru, you have your maize and sweet potato. And again, shortly thereafter, Bronze Age, 3000 BCE, you're going to have the development of metal. Your four main civilizations that we're looking at is the Mesopotamia, which is your Tigris Euphrates, and then you have the Nile, and then the Indus River and the Hoanghi River Valley civilization. These are your four main civilizations. The other two in the Americas are mentioned because they do spring up independently. So that is important to know, but the time frame is such a difference that some historians don't mention it with the other four as major civilizations. And the development, again, a little bit slower as well. Early Mesopotamia, this is your Fertile Crescent region right here. Your major cities, Babylon, Nineveh, Jericho, major cities in the Fertile Crescent. All right, settlements and villages. Slash and burn agriculture will be your main type of agriculture. This is where they're going to cut down and burn down to the ground your trees, your forests, and then they will farm that land. This lasts for about 3 years because you're eventually going to lose all the vitamins and nutrients that are in the land. It doesn't become as fertile anymore, and so you move on to a new plot of land. Irrigation is important. Irrigation is important because we find the development of social structure with irrigation. It takes a lot of people to build an irrigation system to help keep the water flowing to your farmland that you're using for slash and burn agriculture. And so somebody's got to be in charge, somebody's got to work it, so there's evidence of social structure and of hierarchies beginning with that. Jericho, one of your earliest known Neolithic villages. It's north of the Dead Sea. Once believed not to exist, but they have found walls that have caved in and realized the story of Joshua and Jericho having some probability and being true. Catalahug, 7000 BCE, southern Turkey. This is a large complex, still under investigation. You're having agriculture, commerce, shrines, occupations by 3000 BCE. Civilization emerging in this area. You're having social classes. One of the ways they're able to tell this is when they're digging at a site and you have an area that you're looking at, or a room, and all of a sudden there's a lot of pottery in that area. It's not like that person was hoarding pottery, but more than likely they were making the pottery to sell or barter or whatever trade system that was occurring. Same thing when you find tools, same thing when you find a room full of religious artifacts, knowing that there's priests. So there is validity to a lot of the research that they do. One of the reasons this site is still being excavated. Aspects of civilizations: cities, writing, political, advanced technology, and specialized workers. Writing was formed in Mesopotamia with cuneiform, and then of course again this is going to occur with the Bronze Age, stronger metal, helping with weapons, also helping with agriculture. This is Catalahug. This is Jericho. These are your hieroglyphics, cuneiform, and logograms in China. Tigris-Euphrates civilization. This is the beginning of civilization in Mesopotamia, your Fertile Crescent region. The Sumerians were the first from about 3500 BCE. They developed an alphabet. They developed numbers 1060, 360. You also had ziggurats. These are the big religious buildings that they would have. They were in city-states. This is important to understand because each city had its own ruler, and each city also had its own god over that. Even though there's some commonality with being Sumerian, being of an ethnic group, also a commonality of religion to a degree, each had its own ruler and each had its own god. The city of Ur, one of the larger cities in this region, becomes the center of trade. Key location at the end of the Tigris-Euphrates, where it's dumping into the Persian Gulf. So key location, making it the center of trade. The Achaeans, this will be your first empire with Sargon. He's your first emperor. He unites all of them under one ruler. So instead of having multiple rulers, you now have one. Same thing with the Babylonians. And Hammurabi is going to come up with the Code of Laws. There were Code of Laws, and there is evidence of codes of law before this, but not on the grand scale of the justice he is trying to bring to all aspects of society and social levels. Indo-Europeans from 2100 BCE on will come through and eventually settle in that Indus River Valley area. Will cause some disruptions and some invasions in between. Here's the Akkadian area. Here's the Assyrians. And then ancient Mesopotamia. As I mentioned in the screen earlier, I would suggest looking at it and studying it. It does tie a lot of the elements together for you. The city of Ur, you can see the ziggurat. This is another picture. This is a modern day one that they've rebuilt. Doesn't look like it. Here's remains. All right, Egyptian civilization, your pharaohs. Your pharaohs were actually considered gods. Okay, so they were considered deity, and so it's a little bit different of a spin here. Your pyramids were the tombs that they were laid to rest in, and the Egyptian civilization is going to last about 2,600 years. The Kush area, which is just south, you'll have your Kushites. They keep the Egyptian civilization continuing on and reviving it throughout this time period when some invasions do happen and there are some collapses of pharaohs. Indian and Chinese River Valley civilizations, we'll talk about the Indus first. Not a lot known about it. There have been a lot of sites discovered. We do know that they had some government structure, not a strong military. One of the reasons we don't know as much. Invasions would come through and wipe them out, and so therefore we don't have an understanding of their writing because nothing was translated. The Honghe Yellow River Valley area, you have your ideographs with logograms. This is their form of writing. You'll end up with the Shang dynasty from about 1500 BCE, and we'll be studying the Shang and the Zhou and the Qin and Han dynasties in Chapter 2. This is the Old and Middle Kingdoms of Egypt. This is another picture of Egypt in the Kush kingdoms. the Indus River Valley. Patterns of change. These are the characteristics. This is starting in summer with the Sumerians. You have advanced cities, specialized workers, complex institutions, record keeping, and advanced technology. I would suggest looking at this chart to help you have an understanding of the beginning of civilization. All right, the heritage of the River Valley civilization declined by 1000 BCE. A lot of that was due to invasions. The legacy, China, great continuity, and that's going to continue, and we'll see that theme of China throughout the history as we continue to look at it. The Shang to the Zhou dynasty from 1000 BCE with the Mandate of Heaven. Again, we'll be getting into that in chapter 2 as well. Mesopotamia, view of nature persists. Phoenicians with the alphabet, enduring culture, and then Jewish monotheism. The point is even though there's a decline with invasions, other areas keep civilization alive by springing up. Maybe not on the grand scale, maybe not as large, but there are periods of it until other larger dynasties or empires emerge. Abrahamic tradition, this is with the monotheism that occurs. Everything prior to that had been polytheistic, so they had many, many gods in their religions. This is the first religion with one God, which will lead on to Christianity and Islam. Your Greek philosophy will influence Islam and Christianity as well. And then the first civilization's division. All right, you have a division among the people groups. They are divided according to ethnicity and where they live. Geography plays a role in that some too. Contacts increase with time. So people come up with inventions, better boats, better transportation, better trade routes. So slowly over time, contact does continue to increase.